So yesterday, Joe Barry had a press conference where he discussed the Packers defense right now and what he is sort of thinking going into Sunday's game against the Minnesota Vikings. So I want to give a little short recap on what he had to discuss. And now we're only 2 days away from this massive game. I broke down the entire game in a video a couple days ago. So if you would like to see that entire breakdown, feel free to go check that out. And if you haven't subscribed, I put up Packers news, Packers content every single day. So feel free to subscribe if you would like to see that as well. So this press conference was only about 15 minutes long, and the first thing he started talking about was looking back at Week 1, because as many of you know, we faced off against the Vikings in Week 1. Justin Jefferson had about 184 receiving yards, and most of that did occur in the first half. But as Joe Barry noted, the Packers defense did a much better job in the second half containing Justin Jefferson. I think he only had 20 or 30 receiving yards in the second half, and so going into this game, Justin Jefferson is obviously going to be the key piece, the key player the Packers need to key in on. And Joe Barry talked about how players of the caliber and the explosiveness of Justin Jefferson are going to make plays. They're going to have, 15, 20-yard receptions from time to time. And he said the biggest thing is stopping the explosive play, the big, massive plays, which the Packers allowed a couple last week against the Dolphins in the first half. And he also said it's important for the Packers that when they do allow a 15, 20-yard catch to Justin Jefferson, to move on, not get focused on that, and try to come back the next play and get things done. He didn't really go into too much depth about the Packers' game plan, which I wouldn't expect him to, considering the Vikings probably keep an eye on the press conferences, see if anything slips from the coach. So I wasn't surprised that Joe Barry didn't really go into too much depth on exactly how they plan, or at least are going to attempt to stop Justin Jefferson, because he's going to make plays. He's going to have somewhat of a good day. It's just hard to shut down guys like this. And even if the Packers were able to shut down Justin Jefferson, they have TJ Hawkinson now, who is incredible tight end. They have Dalvin Cook. So many different weapons on this Minnesota Vikings offense. Another thing as well, he talked about the Packers' second half against the Miami Dolphins. The first half, we allowed all the points, 20 points in the first half. A crazy 84-yard touchdown to Jalen Waddle, another 50-yard play to Tyreek Hill. And Joe Barry talked about how after that first half, the Packers were able to come into the second half, really limit the explosive play. And part of that had to do with Darnell Savage coming in the second half, replacing Rudy Ford. And for Darnell Savage, he was benched for the past couple weeks, didn't really start as he did earlier in the season, but he was ready to come in, played very well in the second half. Joe Barry noted how he was fast, physical, and communication was clicking. And I think that's one thing this Packers defense hopefully can have work in this game is their communication clicking, because Week 1, many of the times that Justin Jefferson got open, it was because the Packers were in zone. They didn't really do a good job of switching off guys and being in position to stop Justin Jefferson. When you have a guy who's that fast, you got to be able to communicate very quickly. And so hopefully the Packers defense can sort of show what they showed in the second half against the Miami Dolphins. And then one thing we have talked about earlier this week is Devonte Wyatt, who is now going to have a lot more opportunity with Dean Lowry, defensive lineman, placed on the IR this week because I think it was a calf injury he suffered last week. Devonte Wyatt had a lot more reps in that game because of the Dean Lowry injury, a couple QB, or at least one QB hit on Tua. And so for a rookie first rounder in Devonte Wyatt, he now has a lot more opportunity. And Joe Barry talked about just how much of a diligent worker he is and how he plays with an unbelievable effort. So I'm excited to see what Devonte Wyatt can do going forward with a lot more snaps. It will be fun to sort of see what he can do there. And hopefully this week, the Packers defensive line can cause some disruption on the Vikings offense, the Vikings offensive line, because as I talked about in the video yesterday or the day before, whichever day it was, the interior of the Vikings offensive line is very weak, especially with their center missing the past few games. The guy who is filled in there has given up a ton of pressures. So I think this could be a big day for Kenny Clark, Jarran Reed, Devonte Wyatt, with the weakness they have there, I'd say, at center and guard, especially when it comes to pass blocking. The tackles are a lot more talented, but I think the Packers could be able to take advantage of the interior of that of the Vikings offensive line. But that was pretty much all that Joe Barry had to say. Just that great players are going to make their share of plays. We can't give up the massive play, and we can't let one bad play turn into multiple bad plays. So for a year for the Packers defense, it has been inconsistent. The past 3 weeks, the Packers have allowed a straight 0 points in the fourth quarter, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. So they've given up some, big plays early in the game, like against the Dolphins, but in the second half, we're able to come in, get things together, and hopefully the Packers can play a full game against a very talented Vikings offense. But that is pretty much all I want to discuss in this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.